Representative Wilson?
The question was, the comparison back to the Anchorage school system. You can only adopt other standards if they are more stringent than the ones that we have adopted. So again, my question is the Common Core standards that was adopted by the Anchorage School District more stringent than the ones that we have adopted? And then the second question, still back to the base student allocation, still comes from the Department of Education. And so if we are paying for curriculum to back the Common Core standards, the intent of what I put in there was so that no funding, we weren't discussing the definition of money, but does any funding coming from the Department of Education go to buying curriculum that is going to the Common Core standards?
Okay. There are no restrictions on local control in regards to what set of standards they choose to adopt, whether more or less stringent, but they do have an obligation to address the Alaska standards, whatever they may be. So if for some reason they chose a lower set of standards, they would have a requirement to make sure that they were raising the bar and addressing the Alaska standards. In the case of the Common Core, I believe that they're substantially similar. I think in several areas, Alaska standards are slightly higher. So Anchorage has that responsibility to address those differences. In regards to paying for curriculum, the best I can explain it, Representative Wilson, is that through a funding formula, we support districts based on their student count, based on that formula, but we don't determine those local decisions of curriculum. I guess if it is perceived that, well, I surely didn't anticipate that this was perceived to stop districts from purchasing, to put a restriction on districts purchasing curriculum, but the department doesn't purchase that.
Follow-up, Madam Chair?
Please.
So I thought there was, and I can't tell you whether statute or regulation, that for a district to do a different set of standards, that they had to have an approval by the department. So that is not true, and the districts can do any standards that they want?
There isn't a process for a different set of standards. Districts are all obligated to address the Alaska standards. If, in addition to that, they want to incorporate some other methodology, pedagogy, that includes a different set of standards for any particular subject, they can do that, but they are all obligated to address the state standards.
So, Madam Chair, I guess my concern here is, and it's been a concern I've had for a long time, it's not just about the standards and how close they are to the Common Core, but if we're allowing districts to choose whatever standards they want, and then the curriculum is supposed to be aligned, and so is the testing. We could put all these different things into effect, but the bottom line is if we have schools that are struggling, which we do, and we have for a long time, and changing our standards and changing our testing hasn't changed those struggles. And so I guess really what I would ask is, does the department choose to do anything different this time around that they didn't do No Child Left Behind, and stepping in academically, helping schools, not financially, so that those students raise up to a level that we need them to be able to pass these tests?
Yes. We are working much more extensively than we have in the past. I have got staff that are more out in districts than they are at the department now, to the greatest extent possible, working with districts, with all levels of districts, with teachers, and trying to be very, and switching our model specifically from that intervention model to supporting low-performing schools. So we are working on that to make sure that all our students and our schools are successful. Obviously, we're a little early on trying to determine if they're successful or not. We haven't assessed them yet. I would imagine it'll be several years, but we'll have a new baseline this year, and we'll be able to build from there.
And finally, Madam Chair, and maybe this is a discussion your committee can have, if we didn't get the amendment right the first time when it came to monies going into the Common Core standards or curriculum, would we need to make, based on what the Commissioner said, a statute change so that we could be clearer on what our intent was? And
are you asking that question to me or to the Commissioner?
Well, I would be I would like to know whether or not, because it sounds like the commissioner thinks that we're only talking about teacher helps that they give currently, but for me and for my constituents, they don't want to see Common Core any more than they already have into the district. And now that any funding except directly from the department, so I guess that would be outside the formula, could, I know from speaking with you and others, we wanted to make sure that the state was not using any of its funding to keep going forward with this initiative.
And Representative Wilson, that was my understanding as well. It seemed to me there was a bit of trickery, with this amendment in not spending any money to implement the set of standards. Ours was to not spend any state public funds, period, on any part of the Common Core initiative in any fashion or another. And I was as clear as day in regards to my intent, and I'm a vice chair of the Education Committee, so I don't want mine to be mistaken in any way. But I absolutely am very disturbed the fact that we were told that, one, we weren't doing Common Core, two, that we'll never do having to do with curriculum, but then over and over again, if you actually listen to what's being said, the curriculum has to be selected, and now it has to be selected to be on these specific standards across the entire state, and then the assessments are the same Common Core. I mean, it adds up. We're doing Common Core across the state. We have Common Core standards. We're doing Common Core assessments, and we're doing Common Core curriculum. And the freedom is being lost by the state. Freedom is being lost by the individual. Freedom is being lost by the homeschoolers, and it looks like a monopoly. In all practical purposes, it is developing before our eyes, and I'm very, very concerned about all of this, and I'm vehemently going to fight for states' rights, for the legislator's stamp of approval, not the Board of Education, strictly just moving ahead without us, rolling us concern after concern, no matter how many Board of Education meetings. My concerns are void on arrival, and I'm very concerned with how I'm being treated as an elected official, as elected by the people, and that the concerns are being rolled and misinterpreted, and I want to make sure that I'm heard loud and clear, and as many other legislators, and that the truth is coming out of exactly what we're doing in the state.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I look forward to working with you on this coming session.